the Buffalo Sabres fired the general manager, and have won 22 games, lost 5, and lost 2 in overtime. How are they playing? And on paper, you would think that the Leafs have a better team. How have they been able to do this? How have many of these teams done it? Like, how have the Bruins managed to retool and become better than you? It's because they make changes. The Leafs are too afraid to make big changes.
Played at the side of the goal in front of the net. They score! Holy mackerel! Matthews with the hat trick! But Larson, Nylander wins it. William Nylander score! Game over! Bless you, boys! What a game! Tavares coming out, sends it in a goal. They score! They score! The Leafs have won it! They're going to the second round!
Welcome back from a little long break to the 6 on Ice podcast. I'm one Anthony Carboni, and we've got the other Anthony William here, talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, as this podcast has been, right? Unbelievable post-Olympic break, heading to the trade deadline this Friday, March 6th. It is time to talk about it. But first, how you doing? Are you ready for this week or what?
Slightly optimistic, but also trying to rein in my excitement for what Trey Living can do, to be honest, after previous trades.
Yeah, I mean, destroying the Calgary Flames, trading Matthew Tkachuk for Huberdeau, and then all of a sudden now, he comes into here and looks like he's doing the same. So it's just unbelievable. And we talked about this before the Olympic break, how the Toronto Maple Leafs need to have a good bounce back as soon as the break is done. They need to come back strong to win hockey games, and they couldn't do that. So we're going to talk about it. There's lots to discuss today, so I want to jump right into it with this losing streak. Losing 4 straight games, 3 of them to division rivals. 4-2 loss to the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are first place in the Atlantic, not by much, but with the Buffalo Sabres catching up to them. A 5-1 demolishing right there from the Florida Panthers, Stanley Cup champions, who are also, arguably in a worse position than the Maple Leafs. And then the Ottawa Senators on Saturday Night Hockey Night in Canada, in your own barn, 5-2 to another team that's in the same position as the Leafs, who might not make playoffs. And then last night's shootout loss versus the Flyers. What went wrong in these 4 games? Because I tell you right now, if they weren't sellers before the break, they definitely are now.
I mean, are we back to the JFJ days, the Burke and Notice days? It just really seems like we're there and back again. It's like this past 10 years just has been continual disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. The cupboards are bare. We have no good prospects. I mean, Cowan, Ben Danford, that's pretty thin. And it's just, we're mid. We're 9 points out of a playoff spot. We're 8 points out of being a top 5 lottery team. I don't think we're bad enough to make the top 5, but we're clearly not good enough to make the playoffs. We're just mid. I feel like we're back in the Burke-Nonis era of Leaf hockey again.
Yeah, they kind of put themselves in a terrible spot. Like you said, close, not even that close to making playoffs and not even that close to winning the lottery, in a terrible position, because it seems that the Leafs and the whole team were very iffy on which direction to go in. Obviously the players, Matthews in a quote said that they're going to just compete every day. They know where they're at in the standings. They got to just compete and come in to play good hockey. And I mean, what is said versus what is put out onto the ice are completely 2 different things, night and day. You got a team that's, we got to win. We got to put our mindset together. We got to come together as a group and play hockey together. And then they come out and then they drop 3 games to 3 Atlantic Division opponents, two of which are close to you in the standings, are also trying to get into playoffs. And then just, they got a point against Philly, which Nylander said at the end of the game, it's not the result we wanted, but a step in the right direction. Well, you've taken baby steps in that right direction all year, and it's now paying the price. As, we just saw recently, Elliot Friedman tweeted that Bobby McMahon, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and Scotty Lawton are out of the lineup for management or roster management purposes. So it seems to me that the rebuild is inevitable, and Friday will be the start of it.
Is it a rebuild or a retool? I think it's more on a retool, but Sure, trade Lawton, OEL, McMahon, maybe get a couple of first round picks potentially between the three of them or whatever. That's great. But the structure of the team is still intact. You still have Morgan Riley. If you can convince him to waive his no move clause, cool. William Nylander signed here for another 6 years, I believe, 11.5 million. Austin Matthews' contract is up in 2 years, but if you even wanted to move him to make it a definite yes, we are going to rebuild, you probably can't. So it's just we're in a bad spot overall, and it's I think we've had enough evidence over the last 10 years to see that this leadership group doesn't work. And that's what happened in these last 4 games, and the leadership on the team just did not pull through as they always do. They made it to the shootout against Philly. It would have been nice for Matthews to put the team on the back, gold medal win, and score in the shootout to keep the Leafs alive, and he could not. So it's just really frustrating overall. But yeah, we'll see what happens by Friday, I suppose.
It's unreal that, like, they didn't have a lot of guys go to the Olympics. They only had Matthews, they had OEL, who barely even played, let's be honest, and they had Nylander, who was, playing off, I guess, an injury, was iffy, but Matthews went all the way, played every game, did well in the Olympics. And for the other guys that didn't go to the Olympics, they had a lot of time to rest, a lot of time to recover, a lot of time to regather their thoughts and practice together as a team and say, you know what, we can do this. We're not too far off from a playoff position. Let's come back and beat our division rivals. I mean, you come first 2 games are in Florida. It's not going to be easy, but that's where, the resilience and the heart of the team would be, is to try and win those tough games. And they just couldn't do it. The leadership group, I'm really questioning it, like, completely. Austin Matthews, I mean, we don't know how much of he's not a very, like, I guess, high spoken captain, or like, he's not we don't see him in the media as much, but in the dressing room, we don't know how it is. And I don't know. It's really tough to say, like, if, like, he's a great captain for the Leafs because he captained the U.S. Olympic team differently, as we saw. They won gold. Why do you think this is different? Why do you think, like, the team is different? Is it because of, like, outside noise? Is it the history? Like, is it expectation? Like, what is it that, like, makes captaining the Toronto Maple Leafs harder than other teams in the league, you think?
Sure, you could say that the fans and the noise and everything that comes with playing in Toronto. Yeah, absolutely. We're one of the largest fan bases, if not the largest fan base. We're going to have a lot of fanatic fans. Fans is short for fanatics. But I really don't know. You would have thought that so this is his second year being captain. Last year he was injured. Okay, cool. This year seems to be healthy, or supposedly supposed to be healthy, and he's not where we need him to be. Is he ever going to score 40 goals again? And to your point, okay, he's not like an outspoken person. He seems to be very, um, very, I guess, professional with the media, and, like, I guess the polar opposite, I guess you'd say, of like a Brady or Matthew Tkachuk. We're never going to get those, like, sound bites out of Matthews, but maybe he's a good leader in the dressing room. I would expect, if that's the case, for him to show his performance on the ice, but he just does not, or will not, or for whatever reason, just does not come through in the big moments. Is it Berube's coaching style? I think we're kind of seeing that the dump and chase style does not suit this team, does not suit this roster. I think even the Amazon broadcast in the Philly game was saying that, hey, the Leafs are dumping, but they're not chasing, or they're, like, criticizing how the Leafs are executing Berube's system. If we don't have the guys, make trades to get the guys that can play that kind of style. But again, the core of this roster, Matthews, Nylander, Riley, maybe even throwing Tavares in there, they don't really play that game. Well, maybe Tavares probably, yes, but the other three I mentioned, they don't really play that game. And I just don't know how Trey Living can mold this roster into a roster that the 2019 St. Louis Blues roster that Berube had into that. I just with the little assets we have left, with what we have 2 days now before the trade deadline, I just don't know what we are going to do to kind of rectify this.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. But let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Does Austin Matthews get traded in the Quinn Hughes style kind of trade? He has 2 more years left on his contract at $13.25 million. It could be a scenario where he, wants out. I mean, the reports say that he is happy, and he was approached by the Maple Leafs saying, well, from Elliot Friedman saying this, that he was approached by the Maple Leafs and was discussed about the direction of the team and if he was going to be willing to stay, and he said yes, that he had no intentions of leaving. But I don't know. There's always like an offer on the table from any team for a guy like Austin Matthews. Could we see that happening with like the scenario where Quinn Hughes was traded out of Vancouver to Minnesota? Could we see something similar with Austin Matthews there?
I think if we
Because he could
were,
walk away for nothing. He could walk away for nothing.
I think if we were the Vegas Golden Knights, absolutely. But I think Toronto is never going to trade Austin Matthews. Do we win that trade? Maybe in a few years, hard to tell, but I feel MLSE just cares about their bottom line so much where they're not going to rock the boat. And I think we kind of saw that when Dubas was willing to trade Marner, Nylander, or both of them in 2023, was it? And he was let go by Shanahan. I don't know. I don't think we would see it. Would I like there to be? Sure. Clearly over the last 10 years. And it's not like we've made deep playoff runs. It's not like we've came close to winning those game sevens. It has been atrocious performances. It's the guys just don't want it bad enough. Is Matthews happy here? Sure. But does he have that winning kind of mentality? And I just don't see it in him personally.
Yeah, sorry, I was just seeing on man, even their arch rivals Buffalo Sabres, it looks like they're getting Colton Parayko. So I'm just
Really,
been on the trades like on Twitter all day. It's been nuts, but yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I mean, I feel like Austin Matthews, like I feel like everybody's should be open to trade at this point. Like you can't not think or even like have a discussion around maybe we get rid of him, maybe the issues around our captain. I don't know, because from a guy that did score almost 70 goals not too long ago to now where the team is at. And if you ask me, is the team really different from last year besides losing Marner? Like, does that kind of tell you how important Mitch was to this organization also?
I think so. But I also think the team just has given up on Berube. So I guess a question for you. Let's say they somehow trade Matthews, they trade Nylander, or they keep Nylander, they trade Riley, they do seismic changes to this roster, but they keep Berube in place. Do our issues go away?
Well, let me answer that for you. I don't think Berube is a coach in the Toronto Maple Leafs next year. I think the discussion well, I guess we can get into this now. We're going to get into Berube's coaching decisions, but I think Brad Treliving and Craig Berube are probably gone after this season. MLSE, Keith Pelly's interview last year, backing his guys and, wanting to, change the culture and bring this team to where it needs to be as Stanley Cup contenders. This season has not done that. And I think, with the way MLSE operates, they had that long rebuild a bit ago. And the way it's moving now, they do not want that to happen. They cannot afford that for the fans, and they cannot afford that for the money. That's what's really important about it, and really important to MLSE. So I think both those guys got to go, and I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, I can't really answer that question if I think Berube's gone after this year.
I think Berube is not the right coach for this team unless we somehow change our roster over. But I just can't see it happening all at once. And the boys have clearly tuned him out. They're playing like how they were before Christmas, and then Savard got fired. So I think it's a matter of time just before Berube is let go. Now, will they do an in-season coaching change? Not sure. And I don't necessarily think Berube is a bad coach. I just think he is stubborn in his way he's deploying the Leafs. Matthews is like his version of like Desharnais or O'Reilly, and it's like they're different players. He is a premier goal scorer. He's almost scored 70 goals not too long ago. Why are you making him into this defensive center? He's good at defense. Absolutely, absolutely, he's good at defense. But he needs to score. You need him to score goals to win games. Then we can get to like Callan's deployment. He was scratched. Sorry, he received I think it was like 8 minutes of ice time against Philly. Is that really a good way to develop Callan, or should he be with the Marlies playing first line minutes, power play 1 minutes, maybe get some penalty kill experience? Like it's just bizarre coaching decisions overall. But anyways,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're kind of getting into that now. I mean, his coaching decisions have been very like interesting. I mean, not playing Nick Robertson or Troy Setcher is kind of like have been really, really surprising. I mean, look at Nick Robertson. He's playing better and he's developing. A bit of a slow development, but this is one of his better seasons that we've seen. And Troy Setcher is probably, besides like I don't know OEL maybe, he's probably been like the best Leaf since he came to this team, right?
Agreed.
Like he's been fantastic. Why is Berube like sitting two of his like good players? Because for me, that just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, with Easton Cowan as well, managing his minutes. If you don't know how to manage the young players' minutes well, like you shouldn't be coaching a team that has these kind of players. I mean, the fact that he had 8 minutes in a game against the Flyers, they're not even like they're not even a playoff team yet. They're not even in the playoffs, like in a playoff position. Why are you not putting this guy on like the top line if the top line can't generate any chances? Why aren't you like utilizing like his young legs and everything? Why isn't he like playing those minutes? Why isn't he on the power play? To me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And yeah, like it's been a very strange like I mean, we have been blaming the players for the terrible play, but I feel like now I'm starting to really see like some of the decisions that Berube is making are also impacting the team. I can't keep defending a Berube as much as I have in the past couple months, whereas now I'm seeing these kind of stupid decisions and I'm thinking, well, maybe he's like you said, he's just stuck in his old way.
It's just the overall deployment. Robertson's skill set is clearly not meant to be like a third line, fourth line player. He's his skill set is more for the top six. Play him in the top six. Same thing for Cowan. I know Cowan started out on fourth line. He made the roster, yahoo! But his skill set is destined for something more than a 8 minute a game role. And even when I was looking at his game log the other night, he plays like generally, Cowan in particular, plays like 11 to 13 minutes per night. Like, what is that really doing for his development? I just don't understand the decisions that Berube is making overall. And it's not like we're winning games. If we were like first in the league, yeah, absolutely, Berube's a genius. But we are near the bottom. We're mid really, but we're trending down towards the bottom of the league. So why don't you just try something different? I just don't understand.
Yeah, I guess this leads into the next topic is Tree Living, Brad Tree Living. What will he do? Will he do something? Will he do nothing? I don't know. Is a rebuild in order? Is a retool in order? Friday, we're gonna figure that out. I think right now, obviously, the guys that they're holding off in the lineup tonight: Scott Lawn, Bobby McMahon, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. We're all healthy scratches, as I discussed earlier. It is believed that those three players are on the move. Lawton and McMahon are UFAs after this year. Is OEL also, or does he have some term left? He's
Nope.
got a little bit, right?
OEL has 2 more years after this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So three players that, a lot of teams might need. A top, maybe even middle six forward in McMahon, a guy on the blue line like OEL. Lawton's name has been thrown around like as a third line center for some teams going for a run. I've heard the Oilers have been interested on McMahon and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. That has been rumored for weeks. Not sure about Lawton. Maybe like heard rumblings of the Avalanche maybe wanting to add him. What do you think is going to happen here? Is he going to sell those UFAs? What what is Tree Living's plan, you
I
think?
mean, I hope they capitalize on those expiring contracts for sure. Definitely McMahon and Lawton. It just makes sense. They're both in their 30s. At least McMahon's probably going to want what 4 to 6 million, somewhere in that range. McMahon's game is built on speed, and he's only getting older. So I just think it's smart asset management to move off of those players. I'd be more interested in moving like an OEL who has a little bit of term. I love OEL. I think he's exactly what we need, but just at the wrong time, I guess, in terms of where this franchise is. But I would like to also move off of like Max Domi. He doesn't seem to, fit kind of the style. He seems to be shuffled up and down the lineup. Yeah, I know he had some chemistry with Matthews and Bertuzzi in the Boston playoff series, and that was great and all, but it just has never found a spot. Michelli's another one, seems to be in and out of the lineup a lot, but how much can you do in the next, 2 days? Ultimately, I am surprised that the Leafs haven't done anything like now. And it seems to be Trey Living's game to be in on everybody, but like obtain nobody seems to be his motto. And I know Flames fans were joking that he's in on everything and never seals a good trade, and it seems to be happening in Toronto as well.
Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, yeah, it's just like there's a lot of guys here. Like I have a list of like believe who the Leafs should sell, and obviously those three guys are on there. But I'm also looking at Anthony Stolarz. I think if you want to bring in some pieces, like some assets that you might be able to use as picks, maybe some prospects, or even some NHL players. I think Anthony Stolarz it would be a great option. I think having Hildeby, I've said this many times, while Stolarz was out, they were holding down the fort pretty well. I think that's what your future should be. I think Wall is established enough where he can probably start in the playoffs now. Arguably, if he started all those games against the Bruins, it wouldn't have been a close series. You could argue that. But now seeing how Hildeby has played and considering how Stolarz has been since coming back from return, I feel it's time to move on from him and bring in some pieces there. Along with Brandon Carlo, you did acquire him last trade deadline, but I think it's just not a fit, not a great fit at all. I don't think he's had like the best time in a Leafs uniform. He could be a double agent playing for the Boston Bruins as we speak. Who knows? But I think that's another guy that's got to be traded at some point. Probably like it's got to be now. And Nick Raw as well. I mean, I think they should move on from him as well. I don't see a fit in Toronto on that bottom six, as you know, you did trade him for Mitch Marner to get something back. But for me, those 6 players are the guys that got to go, and exactly what Tree Living should do. Well, I mean, what do you think? Is there anybody else that you think should
What about something bigger? What if we were to move, say, Nyes for like an Adam Fox or a Nemec, and New Jersey is kind of saying, hey, we're listening to trade talks. The Leafs have not had a bona fide number one defenseman in 20 years.
what is Morgan Riley not a number one defenseman or what?
No, he's most definitely not. I think if you want to change the complexity of this team, you need to kind of go big. If you can convince Riley to waive his no move clause, which good luck. Matthews or Nylander are probably going to stay here. I love Nyes. I think he's exactly what we need, but we have never had a number one defenseman in like 2 decades. And it's just, we need to shore up our defense. It's painfully obvious. They have a hard time moving the puck. They have a hard time getting the puck out of their own end. I think we need to maybe perhaps go big and maybe dangle Nyes for like an Adam Fox kind of player.
But I don't think Nyes gets moved, unfortunately, as you're saying. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Nyes, they see a potential in Nyes, maybe a future captain, because he is a horse. He's a strong, big built forward who can put the puck in the net, but his playmaking is also underrated, which, I think would be something that the Leafs do not want to miss out on. Like, this could be a part of this next generation team or new era Leafs, as it seems like they're moving away from the core 4 and now trying to have something better. And I think Nyes is going to be a part of that. I don't see them moving Nyes, but I was like, there was rumors, obviously Robert Thomas is probably one of the highest parts of the conversation for trades. The Leafs were reportedly in on him as well from yesterday and yesterday's report. So that could be something. I don't think that the Maple Leafs will do that. I think there are better suited teams for Robert Thomas. But as for the Toronto Maple Leafs, like, do you think that's an option right there, is to send away some pieces for Robert Thomas and maybe like build around that, and maybe see what that core can do next year?
I mean, Thomas is a first line center in St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. So does he address anything that we need though? I mean, we have Matthews, we have Tavares, and I guess we have at this point Walla and Lawton. But assuming those two are gone, would you throw Quillen on the fourth line? Would you put John Tavares on the third line and put Thomas on the second line? But does that address kind of like these core issues that we have as a team? And again, if Berube's gonna be sticking around, I feel this whole um, no matter who you bring in, if they're gonna be forced to play Berube hockey, it's just not gonna work. But as you said, they could ditch him both, well, Trey Living and Berube in the summertime and start fresh. I just don't think personally, I just don't think Thomas addresses a real need that we have. I'm more curious about kind of shoring up the defense and actually having a true number one defenseman that can move the puck, that can actually put the puck in the net. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
We're in a bad spot though, but like we don't have much assets to really trade. Yeah, we have roster players and we can recoup those assets, but it's not like we are the San Jose Sharks. They are pushing for the playoffs. Like they're up and coming. They're exciting. Celebrini looks like an absolute dog, absolute like star player. And we're kind of in this weird quagmire of we're 1 foot in, yeah, we're gonna playoff team, and we're 1 foot out of the basement, and it's just really hard. Like, what do you do? What do you do?
Do you wanna know something funny? Like is this gonna make you laugh or cry? Considering how the Sharks were last year, you wanna know something funny about that? The Sharks are obviously fighting for a playoff spot. They have the same amount of points as the Maple Leafs. Both at 64 points. They both have 64 points on the year, and the Sharks are pushing for playoffs, while Toronto, I mean, last year they won the Atlantic Division, and 365 days later at this point, were you thinking that they would be on the same level in terms of points? Or even like teams like Anaheim, Buffalo, Detroit, Montreal, all being Boston, all being better than you? You wouldn't even like have that as a thought or dream or anything.
Based on how last year went, I'm like, okay, this is a step in the right direction. They are playing a more aggressive, forechecking kind of game that we have not seen during the Sheldon Keefe era. Sheldon Keefe era hockey was very offensively oriented. Here we kind of had a little, maybe a little more balance. This year has just been an absolute abomination. And yeah, we lost Mitch Marner. We're probably going to take a step back point wise. But as Florida showed last year, you just kind of have to make it into the playoffs and then do your damage. And I mean, I know Florida had a whole ton of injuries last season. I don't think anybody predicted that the Leafs would be where they are right now. Yeah, Mitch Marner's a really good player, but there's still enough star power on this team, still a lot of good players on this roster to do better than they have, and they have just not have met expectations whatsoever.
Well, listen, honestly, I think it's time to address the elephant in the room. Maybe these players aren't good enough. Maybe they are not good enough because I'm so tired of these excuses from these players, from Nylander, from Matthews, anything. It's a step in the right direction. You still lost the game. You still lost the game. You guys, like, honestly, you've had injuries, whatever, but there have been guys who have come back from injury and have played through it. There's guys like the Buffalo Sabres fired the general manager, and have won 22 games, lost 5, and lost 2 in overtime. How are they playing? And on paper, you would think that the Leafs have a better team. How have they been able to do this? How have many of these teams done it? Like how have the Bruins managed to retool and become better than you? It's because they make changes. It's because they make changes. The Leafs are too afraid to make big changes. The Marner situation happened because he was a UFA, and basically they ran him out of Toronto. The media, the fans, ran him out of the city. And guess what? The exact same crap is happening now with these guys. They can't get the job done, and they can't handle the media pressure. And it's just terrible. The organization MLSE, they don't want to make any changes to the team. They don't. And that's where it's a problem. Like, trade one of your big players. Get rid of them. See what happens. You could bring in a big return. Do something big. They're too afraid to pull the trigger. And that has been the problem with the Toronto Maple Leafs for the longest time. The biggest thing they've done was sign John Tavares back in 2018. That's the biggest thing I've seen the Maple Leafs done.
Isn't it interesting looking at, say, the Chicago Blackhawks? I think they're also near the basement of the league right now. They drafted Connor Bedard. He's going to be great. They have some nice young pieces there, but where they are now is kind of where the Leafs were. And then the Leafs signed Tavares, and then that kind of escalated their rebuild. It's kind of an interesting what if scenario. What if we didn't sign John Tavares? Would our big stars ask for as much money? Would we had, I don't know, maybe we would have got another top 5 pick, top 10 draft pick, and maybe that could have been something. Just a whole, I just felt overall that MLSE is a business first and a hockey organization second. And there's a way you can have both. I think maybe Vegas is not the good example because they kind of don't have no loyalty. So as a fan, how do you get engagement? But they're willing to win. They have that winning attitude, that winning mentality. Toronto, like, I don't know what the solution is. Can you boycott? I don't think fans are still going to go. Corporations are still going to buy Leafs tickets because they are highly sought after commodities. I don't know what the solution is. If they're bad for long enough, yeah, things is going to happen. But like, how much longer are they going to be horrible? And in this era, with all the talent that you had, all the optimism that you had in 2016, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, the three-headed monster, up and coming. It was so much optimism, so much hope that finally, after decades of not rebuilding properly, finally we're going to do a rebuild. And they kind of fucked that up. They just rushed it, and here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I mean, looking into a retool, maybe even rebuild. It's from where they were last year, competing for first in the Atlantic Division, to where they are now, is leaves me a lot of question marks. Like, was Mitch really the problem? Are these guys just not good enough? Do they have heart? Is it a coaching problem? Is it a general manager problem? The Leafs have had such big main problems for years. They don't want to do big moves. They're too afraid to trade for a defenseman because they think Riley is good, and their leadership group might be horrible. And that's the case. That's the case with everything. Every year with Tavares, it's a lesson for us. It's a lesson for us. Well, how many lessons are you going to have? How many times are you going to fail the class before you understand what it means to win big important hockey games? And I think the organization just needs a huge, huge just reset, if you ask me. But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
I don't know. I think you need to change Trey Living. I think you need to change Berube, but I think you also need to change the core, the face of this team. And I'm kind of surprised with Matthews in particular after leading Team USA to gold, and he actually looked pretty good in the Olympics. He scored goals, he got points, played well defensively. It was really great to see. I was hoping, part of me was kind of hoping, okay, this will maybe motivate him. He knows what it takes to kind of win something for once. Yeah, you can call guys out, you can call people passengers and all this stuff, but buddy, you haven't scored since January 27th. Like I don't put your money where your mouth is, I guess. Like, show up in these big moments. Will the team to a playoff spot? Like when you look at Connor McDavid, when you even look at Macklin Celebrini, when you look at Nathan McKinnon, I see them play in the regular season. Like my main team is this failure of a franchise, of course, but I do catch a few games here and there, and they always have it on 100% of the time. Matthews doesn't seem to have that dog in him. Like I don't understand. You're the face of the Toronto, one of the most crazed hockey you think that would motivate you. You think that would make you want to bring a Stanley Cup home, and I just don't. I just don't.
I want to do a quick rapid fire with you
Sure.
on the entire Leafs roster. I'm going to list a player, and you're going to tell me if they're staying or at some point they're gone within the next maybe year or less.
Okay.
So just say in or out. Easton Cowan,
I'll say in,
Max Domi,
out.
Kelly Arncroke,
I'll say out.
Dakota Joshua,
I'll say in. I think they'll keep him. I think they'll keep him
Matthew Nyes,
in.
Scott Lawton,
Breaks my heart, but I think he's out.
Steven Lorentz,
In.
Matthias Michelli,
I think he's out. I don't think they move him this trade deadline, but I think he's on a 1-year deal, right? So yeah, I think he's going to sign somewhere else in the offseason.
Austin Matthews,
In.
Bobby McMahon,
Out.
William Nylander,
In.
Nick Robertson,
That's a tough one. I think he's had enough of Toronto shit. I think he's out.
Nick Waugh,
He's gone.
John Tavares,
In.
Simon Benoit,
I think they keep him.
Brendan Carlo,
I think they'll keep him. I don't think they're going to be able to move him.
Oliver Ekman Larson,
He's gone. He's out.
Jake McCabe,
In.
Morgan Riley,
Fortunately, in.
Troy Stetcher,
I think they re-sign him. Yeah, I think he stays.
Chris Tanev, almost done.
Yeah, he's injured now. Got season-ending surgery. So yeah, but another 4 years of his contract, so he's in.
Anthony Stolars,
I hope out, but I'll say he's out. I'll say that they move him
Joseph Wall.
in.
That is it. That was a lot more outs than I thought. I mean, what do you think the Leafs do if all these guys are out?
Well, you said like within a year, right? So there's like this trade deadline, the off season, and next trade deadline. But a lot of those players have short term contracts or have been here for a while. Like Jan Krook, I think does he expire this year? I
I
think he
think
expires
it's
this
next
year.
year.
Next year, but he's been with the organization for a lot of years and just hasn't worked out. Like I think it's going to be the same story we've seen. Swap out the bottom six and keep generally the same top six and just the carousel of bottom six players. It's until they're, as you've put it, until they're willing to make a big move to move one of these big roster players out or convince one of them to waive their no movement clause, we're going to be stuck.
I'm surprised you said Morgan Riley. Why do you think he's staying here?
I've not seen any, I guess, credible rumors, I guess. I mean, all rumors are not really credible, but I just think he stays. I just can't see this organization having the balls to ask a player to waive a no movement clause. They did for Mitch Marner, but I think they knew Mitch Marner wasn't going to resign. I just think they're just not going to ask him to waive, and I think he's going to be a career Maple Leaf. Do I want him to waive? Absolutely. Please, Morgan Riley, if you watch our podcast, please waive your no movement clause. I think he stays. Let me ask you, do you see a scenario where he waives his no movement clause?
Listen, I think that's after this year. I think they're going to have a meeting with him, and they will ask him. Depending on who the management is, I think there will be discussion in the summer of whether or not it is time to move on from Morgan Riley and if he is willing to move his no movement clause. Obviously, he's on the quest to win a Stanley Cup, but is a team willing to offer money for this player? The only team that I could see him going to is probably his hometown Vancouver Canucks because he's from BC. He's probably going to go there if anything. I don't see him go. I don't see any other team being interested in him in the Eastern Conference. I don't see any teams in the West besides Vancouver. I just can't see a fit other than a Vancouver Canucks jersey. I just don't see it happening. And I think like I said, it all has to happen with the management approaching him. And if there's going to be new management or if it's going to be tree living, it has to happen this summer if something is going to happen because I don't think Morgan Riley should be a Toronto Maple Leaf October the 9th or 10th, whatever the opening night is this year. I don't think it should happen. I think they need to move on from Morgan Riley. He's been there since 2013. It is now 2026 and you still have done nothing. Is it like how much longer are you going to wait to see more development from this defenseman?
I think Riley does have value. I think he's still offensively, I guess, what's an offensive skill set. He still gets points. His cap hit is $7.5 million, and the cap's only going to go up. So I think, like, it might not. I think the appeal is there in future years. I just think the hard part is convincing him to waive his no movement clause to begin with. I think he loves it in Toronto as a wife, as a kid. I think he's just the modern version of the Muskoka Five, I suppose. I guess now we're down to the Muskoka Four: Riley, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares. But anyways. Um, I just don't
Shout out.
see.
Yeah, continue. Keep going. I just saw something.
I just. I honestly, I think if we were to have a true number one defenseman, this team would look a lot different. And I just think it needs to be done. We are long overdue.
We are definitely long overdue. Shout out to the Win Column podcast because the boys over there got something to talk about with Mackenzie Weegar being traded. I just saw he's going to the Utah Mammoth. So, man, if only the Leafs could have been on that maybe years ago. Maybe getting Mackenzie Weegar over to their blue line. It's such a great NHL deadline, and it's going to be so terrible that the Leafs are not going to be a part of it in the best way. Agreed?
Agreed. I will say this. When Trey Living made that trade for Kachuk, for Huberdeau and Weegar, I think it was, at the time, pretty good. I think nobody expected that he would get that kind of return for a player who wanted out. And I guess nobody would predict that Huberdeau fell off the face of the earth. Weegar has still been really a really good player for them. But I just don't see, based on Trey Living's trade with Carlo, and even the Lawton trade I can stomach a little bit, but it's still really pricey. But the Carlo trade was so bad. And if this is the kind of trades that he's willing to make with our assets. I'm just kind of scared at the same time for what he's going to do this trade deadline. But I don't know. I just we were just in such a shitty spot. We are again not we're too good to fail, and we are too crappy to succeed, and we're in this weird 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and it's not good. And we don't even have a first round pick until 2028. What do you do?
What do? You gotta gather some assets within the next couple of days. You got to do something. Unfortunately, the Leafs are not going to make playoffs from what we know and what we've seen on the ice. A lot of guys are coming up on UFAs. You have no picks until 2028. It's time to make some big decisions, grow a pair of balls, and make some big decisions. That is going to wrap up this podcast. We are heading into another NHL trade deadline. March the 3 p.m. Eastern is the deadline to make a trade. Brad Treliving and the Maple Leafs have done nothing yet. 3 of their big guys that are UFAs or coming up to be are out for tonight. We'll see what Brad has to do. Is there anything you want to add before we sign off for the week?
Nope, all good here.
Well, we'll see what happens with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll see how they do, and maybe if it determines who ends up leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll see what happens Friday. We will see you guys next week to report on the NHL trade deadline.